Hello everyone, my name is Stephanie Locke and this is my Module 1 introduction. A little bit about me. I am an agriculture teacher and FFA advisor and have been for the last 7 years. I have worked all 7 years at Wilson Junior Senior High School. We are a 1A school and we are at about 40 kids in our high school, so we're pretty small. Classes that I teach welding 1 and 2, animal science, vet science, food science, exploratory ag, which is the 8th grade class, intro to ag, which is for freshmen, plant and animal science, and then I have taught a ag mechanics class. I have a 4-year-old son. His name is Henry. Here he is in his uncle's squad car. And then I have 2 dogs. I have Max and I have Ruby. This other picture here is our hydroponics unit that we have in my classroom now. We produce lettuce with our hydroponics unit, and the lettuce goes to the salad bar for our school. When we get into the content questions for this module, talking about public school support, when we look at the federal level of support, historically, what the research tells me is that the federal government creates legislation based on the needs of the times. So the example that I put on here is the Smith-Hughes Act. That one was created in 1917, and it established agriculture education in public high schools. Before then, the way that agriculture was taught was passed from generation to generation if you lived on the farm. And so the Smith-Hughes Act put ag education into the public high schools, which gave a consistent teaching of agriculture education. The federal government makes the laws and regulations like IDEA, FERPA, ESA, to help control and to protect the teachers and staff that work in education, as well as the students in public education. The federal government also decides how much federal funding is going to go to public schools. So every time the House and Senate are debating the budget for the government, part of that is the for public schools, and so the federal government also has those funds for specific purposes. It's not just whatever the states want to do with them. So that gets me to the states. The states provide accountability for schools in their state. They establish education standards for their state, and then they provide the funding for those schools' operations. And according to the Center for Public Justice article, states provide slightly less than half of the funding that schools need for operation. When we look at the local level, this is where the rest of the funds come from. The funds come from property taxes on homes and buildings in the specific school district for the rest of the operating costs and budgets. For Wilson, we're part of the Central Plains School District, but I wanted to throw in the Czech egg. Wilson is the Czech capital of Kansas, and so it's a little bit of the heritage of Wilson. When we look at who's in charge of the different levels with the federal, we have the President of the United States, so President Donald Trump. The Education Secretary is currently Betsy DeVos, and then we have the United States Department of Education. The President will sign legislation into law that's going to affect education, and it is a paid position. Betsy DeVos, our Education Secretary, she will give advice on legislation concerning education, and she helps to oversee that the legislation is being successfully implemented. And her position is a paid position as well. In Kansas, the Kansas Commissioner of Education is Randy Watson. And then we have our State Board of Education, which is composed of 10 elected members. Both positions are paid for their time and travel for meetings based on what the senators and representatives for Kansas get paid. They get the same similar pay grade. Their job is to develop policies, help control the schools in the state, and then do basic supervision duties that may arise as they are the State Board of Education. Locally, you have your district school boards. So the district school board for my school is composed of 7 people. We have Brad Schermeyer, Tamara Dottie, Tony Zink, Jacob Charvat, Chad Rogers, Joshua Hurley, and Tammy Shepin. Their positions are unpaid, but they are elected. They approve school policies, they hire staff members, and they make decisions on how our schools are ran and how resources are allocated. Last summer in June, the school board actually had to make the decision to close one of the school buildings in our district. So that's another job of local school boards to decide which buildings stay open and which are closed. Another person involved at the local level is our superintendent, and our superintendent is Greg Clark, and he supervises the different schools that are in our district, and his position is paid as well. In my personal opinion, when you think about all of the power that's there, I think that the local has the most power. They are the ones that are here day to day with the workings of the schools. They decide if classes are funded, if they are not. They decide what resources go to which teachers. They decide what curriculum is going to be used to teach the standards set by the state. They make the most decisions. The state does have the financial control because without the funding from the state, a lot of schools would not be able to function just on taxpayer dollars for homes and buildings. But in my opinion, after everything that I've read, I do think that the local has the most power. When we look at the components for this assignment, 6.1, after reading it, I believe that it's talking about the local level of the schools. 6.2, I think it's talking about the state as the same as 6.3, more leaning towards the state. Educational success and well-being for all. Each level of the public education system has to do their part. If the federal government doesn't give money to the states, then the states don't have money to give to the schools, and then the schools can't function. Each level, while they have different jobs and they have different levels of power, is crucial for our public education system to function. I know that there are people out there who make the argument that public education is not working the way it is, but the only way that is going to change is through legislation, through funding, all those different things. And so I think that the way that it promotes success for all and the well-being of all students and adults that work in the system is that each level is doing their part. Finally, we have my APA references. And that is the end of my presentation. Thank you for watching. I look forward to the rest of this course.